Welcome to the Bad Mom Show, where we flip the script on shame, shed light on what's made you feel invisible, and take your story back. It is time to step into that bold, baddie mom you were created to be. Around here, BAD stands for blessed, already approved of, and divinely designed, because you are not a bad mom. You are a leader. You were chosen for your family on purpose. You are divinely designed and anointed as the heart of your home, and you can confidently own your mantle of leadership as a fiery woman to lead with boldness, not burnout. This is your space to reclaim the parts of your story that have felt like weaknesses and discover they were actually your superpowers all along. It is time to shine as a BAD mom. Are you with me? Let's go. Hey, what's up? How are you? I am Teresa Todd, and welcome back to the Bad Mom Show. I'm so happy that you are here. Today, we are kicking off something really fun that I'm excited about. I decided to do a little hot topic summer Sizzler series for you because why not, right? It's summer. And this topic is very much a hot topic. We are going to talk about sex and how do we talk to our kids about sex? This is going to be a 4-part series. So today is the first episode in it. And I know this isn't a really valuable series of messages for you because I know in my own experience, this is something that has been, I'm very passionate about it. It's something that I've learned about, I've educated myself about. There's lots of great resources out there. There's a program that I'm going to reference through this series that I've actually walked many women through. It's called The Birds and Bees, actually. This isn't solely based on that, though, but it does reference it a lot because I love the framework of their program. And they really do hit on so many valuable parts of this because it's not, again, we are not dropping the sex book on our kids' heads. Please don't do that, right? But there are so many opportunities to talk about sex in a healthy, age-appropriate way. I'm talking about 2 and up. Yes, you heard me right. Before we start all that, we really have to acknowledge our own stories in all this. So wherever you are, get comfy. If you're feeling panicked because I said the word sex, it's okay. Calm down. Don't feel overwhelmed. That's why we're here. But truly, many of us do feel overwhelmed. We feel unprepared and honestly a little terrified to have this talk with our kids because of our own kind of messed up experience with it, right? So I hope that you are ready to just dive right in with me. Grab your coffee. I hope maybe you're on a walk. Maybe you're in carpool. If you're with the kids, maybe, I don't know, you might want to save this one for later for just for you, to have a little reflection time. They might start asking you questions that you're like, wait a minute, I need to listen to the series first. I'm not ready to answer that. You're ready. Okay, so let's dive in. Are you ready? Are you with me? I'm excited. Hot topic time. All right, so let's really consider what is the story that you carry about sex. All of us have a very different experience of how we learned about it, what we were taught about it. But chances are it wasn't a super awesome experience. I've been in many groups now with women and had this question asked, and it causes a lot of discomfort. So if this is making you uncomfortable, it's okay. And, I'm a big fan of you exploring your story, especially when it comes to sex and intimacy, because a lot of us have pain points there. We have broken trust there. There was abuse or trauma there. So just recognize that if you are feeling any of those emotions and you're feeling like, I don't want to go there right now, it's okay. Your body is giving you information. It's telling you there's a broken place, a place of wounding that needs your attention, and you are safe. You have God with you. He's not going to let anything happen to you. You're an adult now. You're not in danger anymore, but your brain, your survival brain may be triggered right now and saying like, I don't like this. I'm not comfortable. So if you're feeling that, just try to, take a few deep breaths and remind yourself, I'm safe. I am not in a dangerous situation. I am here. God is with me. I can comfort myself right now. We can revisit those places in safety and protection and love and tend to those wounds with curiosity, without judgment, without shame. Because when we keep those things hidden, that's when they fester. That's when they create dysfunction in our relationships in the present, and that could happen between you and your spouse, but it also can happen in this situation with how you then approach the topic of sex with your own children. So it's really important. And again, that trauma doesn't have to be a physical abuse. That trauma could be I was shamed about it. I was shamed about my body, being a female, being a woman, having a period. Like I was shamed about those things, and I have never gotten over that. Or it could be nobody talked to me about it. I was completely abandoned and left to figure things out on my own. That could cause some wounding right there. So let's explore this together. Okay, I'm with you. It's all good. So a lot of times the topic of sex was approached and parented from a place of silence, literally didn't talk about it. That's something I can relate to. It was not a topic of conversation by any means. And when it was time to talk about it, I remember it was like school was going to talk about puberty, and I think it was like fifth grade, and they sent something home that they were going to talk to us about sex, and my mom like hurried me into a room, like literally as I'm running out the door for school, and is like, "Hey, I got to talk to you about sex." And I'm like, "What?" Like, what? And like, I don't even remember what she said. And then it was like, "Okay, bye, have a good day." And I just remember going to the bus stop, like, what just happened? And then like sitting in fifth grade and like the awkward, they used to really teach you about this at school. They don't do it to that extent now, I don't think, but not in my kids' experience. But yeah, awkward. And I know for a lot of people, it was just not spoken about it. I know many people, there was a lot of shame around it, a lot of religiosity, a lot of legalism, a lot of sort of church wounds around that, right? Like sex is bad, sex is dirty, it's embarrassing. We don't talk about it. Your body, like menstruating, that's dirty. We don't talk about that. Um, and I know that there's a lot of trauma there, emotionally and physically, because things were not talked about, things were shoved under the rug. And that is, that's very unfortunate too. There's also a lot of confusion. If you were not given a healthy model for it in your parents' relationship, um, or whoever was, your caretakers, how they modeled relationship and intimacy. I'm not talking about modeling like seeing sex, but like their relationship in terms of love and intimacy. If that was unhealthy, that could be confusing. Also finding out from friends, finding out from TV, from movies, from media, magazines, and of course, trial and error, If no one else is paying attention, no one's teaching you. A lot of times, kids will go figure things out on their own. And yes, kids. So, whether we like to acknowledge it or not, we must look at how our stories are shaping how we feel about the topic of sex and talking to our kids about it. And the type of conversation you want to have with them, the type of relationship you want to have with them around this topic. So, today we're going to discuss some of those things. How comfortable are we discussing things that are related to our bodies? How comfortable do you feel to answer questions if your kids were to come to you with them? How comfortable do you feel with opening up the topic and being the first one to talk to, breach the conversation? If you're avoiding it, why? And I think the most important part is to really think about how you want your kids to grow up, what message you want them to grow up with about sex in a healthy way so they can carry that into their future as adults. How do you want them to feel about it? How do you want them to live and believe about it? How do you want them to think about their own bodies? And how do you want them to treat, the sacredness of their bodies as they grow and mature? Okay, so I shared a little bit about my story. Yes, the message I received was a very strict message that sex was not something we spoke about. Um, but I also did see sort of a confusing message because I saw male figures allowed to objectify women, but then women were not allowed to like be sexually like provocative or anything, and certainly we didn't talk about sex. I was exposed to pornography at a young age. I didn't actually realize that's what it was because it was a acceptable form of it at the time in magazines. If you recall Playboy, that was okay. People did not, that was not weird to like have a Playboy collection. Um, and I was around one. And so I was exposed to things earlier on, and it was a bit confusing to me. And no one did talk to me about that. And then there's the topic of virginity. I grew up in a religious home. We went to church. I believed in God. But there wasn't really a faith perspective about what the Bible says about my body, about our bodies, about how God created man and woman to come together as one, the sacredness of that union. I didn't really understand the sacredness of my body as a temple, something to protect. So there was a lot of fear and fear around getting pregnant. It was just like sex is bad and you get pregnant. A lot of like guilt and shame around breaking rules in general, but definitely around the idea of having sex before you're married. I do remember being very little and not understanding the concept of virginity, like the Virgin Mary, and asking my dad what a virgin meant. And I remember saying, "Is my mom a virgin?" And I just remember him laughing at me. And again, he probably doesn't remember this. And to him, it was probably very innocent. But to me, as a little girl, I was asking a genuine question. And he laughed at me and he told me to go ask my mom. And I just remember feeling humiliated and completely ashamed. And of course, I did not go ask my mom because I literally felt like, okay, I just asked something really dumb. So I didn't ask anybody again. And I was fearful around what the heck does that word even mean? So we really do have to consider what's caught is more than what is taught a lot with our children. So how we feel about sex, what we communicate in our relationships about, if you have intimacy blockages, with your spouse. Maybe you're a single parent and there's not a spouse there to teach. A lot of people think like only men can teach boys. That's not true. They need to hear it from their mom as well. I want to be involved in my son's conversation. It's not just my husband's conversation with him. But these are things to consider when you're like, what is my approach? What do we want our family's approach to be to this conversation? It's not a one and done. This is a drip, drip, drip conversation that you're going to have over years. So if you haven't started yet, get ready to start. And no, it's not too late. But yes, you can start as early as 2 years old. So, but this episode, we're going to think about what we want our kids to grow up knowing. It's not about your story, but it is important to look back at your past and consider some things, and realize what you're bringing to the table. I definitely realized that I was bringing a lot of fear. I didn't want my kids to not feel safe enough to come and talk to me. Like, I want that trust there. I want it open. I want them to think that I am the expert, that I will share anything and everything with them in truth and in love, that I am here to help protect them, that I'm going to give them information now to keep them armed and ready and wise and trusting their instincts and their discernment about safe environments, safe people, what is safe boundaries with their bodies. But also as they grow up, and they start developing and they start having emotions and things like that. Like, what do we do with our desires? Like, I want to help them every step of the way. That was not given to me. So maybe that's why I'm so passionate about it. I had to go figure things out on my own. Probably not the best plan. I did find out a lot from my friends. I had a lot of people, there were a lot of young, a lot of promiscuity things going on at younger ages that like I think about now and I'm like, whoa, I would never want that for my children. So it's not about shaming yourself. It's just being really honest and curious about how your story might be informing how you're approaching it now. But also, do not let your story inform how you're now going to approach this conversation with your kids. You're going to form your own plan for your family moving forward into their future. Okay. Because my fears, as we know, making any decisions based out of fear, it's not really wise. And me being afraid of my kids not coming to talk to me is maybe going to create, weird conversations. But But I want them to know that I'll always tell them the truth and that no question is stupid or off limits, that I'm not going to laugh at their questions. Um, and also that if they see something that they know is not a safe picture or video or something, or someone wants to try to do something, that they have every power in their bodies to say no, to look away, to leave a room, that they feel empowered because I'm going to arm them with that education. Um, okay, so let's consider some questions that you can think about as you are getting prepared for this conversation that you're going to start having with your kids, and it's a healthy conversation. So, some questions for you to think about. Did you get the talk from your parents? And if so, can you describe that experience? Just, and this is, I'm going to give you a little summer homework. Your summer homework challenge for this episode is to journal on this. So take these reflection questions and really take some time to think about them, especially if there's, pain and wounding and brokenness in your story around sex. Very important in general for healing that you do this. What was the overall tone regarding sex in your home growing up? Again, was it positive? Was it negative? Was it not spoken about at all? Was it shameful? Did you feel comfortable going to your parents to talk to them about sex or even about, your menstrual cycle? That also was like weirdly not something we spoke about in a house full of women. Like, don't know why. Um, but that's how it was. It was like, don't ask, don't tell kind of, I don't know. If your parents were not the key source of information, who or what did form your impression of sex? What was the message that you received? And what do you wish you had known about sex when you were younger that you were not taught? And then what are some of your earliest memories of learning about sex? How did you learn about it? If, now as an adult looking back, was that a healthy way to be informed about it? And then what do you want your children to experience differently? Really start envisioning that, right? Cast the vision, make it plain. So, like it says in the Bible, you're going to cast your vision of what you want your family's energy to be about it, your conversations to be about it, the tone, the level of trust, the openness, and then you're going to write that vision. You're going to make it plain. Hey, friend, thank you so much for being here and following the Bad Mom Show. I would love to hear from you, so let's connect. After the show, send me a DM and let me know what's hitting home for you. What do you struggle with the most as a mom? And what topics would you like to hear more about? This show is all about connection in the community because that is how we truly grow. So reach out to me at the Teresa Todd on Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok, and I cannot wait to hear from you. Okay, so for in the present, how would you define a healthy attitude and healthy behaviors about sex and sexuality to your kids? What are your beliefs or values regarding sexual activity? Even if you're a Christian, you might have varying beliefs about that. Do you believe in your children waiting to have sex until they're married? Or are you open to them being sexually active before they're married? And if so, why? And if so, what are you okay with? These are really important things to consider. What role does your faith, if any, play in your understanding of sex? And then where do you stand on the following topics? These are hot topics of their own: homosexuality, transgenderism, the hookup culture, pornography, abortion, virginity, sexting. All of these things fall under that umbrella of topics that could potentially come up in a sex conversation. And you need to know where you stand on it. And depending on whether you have a faith perspective or if you have just a biological, physiological health perspective of what's safe and what's not, and what's acceptable and what's not, you need to be really clear about that before you're going to open up to your kids and say, sure, come to me and I'll tell you, what I believe, what the Bible says, or what our family believes. All of these are really important questions. So we are getting ready to kick it off. This is your first homework challenge. I want you to take those reflection questions, and I really want you to sit and set some time and answer them for yourself. Maybe you could even share them with your spouse. Have you and your spouse talked about your first experiences with sex if it wasn't with each other? And if it was with each other, how has that changed? How's your sex life changed since then? Lots of layers, lots of dynamics. This is not just, again, dropping the sex book on your kid's head because there's so much that comes into play when we have this conversation. But it starts with you and getting clear on your story, what's influencing your story, and what you want to teach your children, what you want your message to be, and to be firmly rooted in that. We're going to plan that out together next time. But I just wanted you to have this time to really start to set the foundation, set the stage for yourself, and be ready to be confident because you can do this. And especially when you're going into these conversations, I'm going to give you the practical 3 C's. You're just going to stay calm, you're going to stay curious, and you're going to stay consistent because that is the key to all of this. You're building trust. You're not trying to be have the perfect answer for everything. You're just trying to be proactive and you're going to build that relationship over time, coming back to them again and again with those curious questions, answering their curious questions, being open to their curious questions. All right. Last thing I want you to think about, if your child came to you today with a difficult question about sex, what would they get? Would they get the calm curiosity and the connection, or would they get discomfort, disconnect, panic? Don't panic. And if you're not prepared to answer it, say, that's a really great question. Can I think about that? And I'll come back to you. Because next week we're going to have a lot of great tips for ways to answer those questions. All right, I'm excited. Are you excited? This is the Sizzly Summer Series, Part 1. Stay tuned next week for Part 2, where we really dig in. Thanks for being here. Share this with another friend. Let's do this together, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.